Take 24, take 112, take 150, take 172, high, take 456, high, take 672, take 723, take 1023, high. You would think I'd be better at this. I've been watching tons of videos. Can Spader Christmas, Xlights, so extreme sequences. Hi, welcome to Into Electronics Christmas Edition. This will be the first in a series of many videos discussing building props, programming, all the stuff you might need to know and be helpful in your projects. So let's get started. Today, we're going to be building some outlines for windows, and I'm going to be using 1/2" PVC with 1/2" T's that are cut off, so it's a more perfect square instead of using the 90-degree, connectors. So let's get started. So we're going to start out with 15 pack, several 15 packs, because we're building several windows for the house. We've got 1/2" PVC Schedule 40 T's and 1/2" PVC Schedule 40. So we're going to take these over to the bench vise and cut them. So I have some 1/2" T's that I will cut down to make a good square for the corner angles. Safety first. So now that we've got our T's cut, we have a nice square edge, so that way we can drill holes in and put a pixel at the top. So, what we do, stick it on a piece of pipe, and we're going to drill some holes. So I have a 1/2" stepper bit on a Harbor Freight special. So let's drill some holes. Safety first. So once we've got all of our holes drilled, we are going to check it with some pixels. Then you should probably check this before, after you drill your first hole, make sure that they are nice and snug. I will show you in a moment how we're going to do PVC pipe. So I have pre-cut length of PVC pipe. These are at 59 because they work for my windows. Your lengths will vary. I'm going to do 1.5 inch spacing. So what I have done, I did this last weekend. We have cut the 1.5 inch spacing in there, and what I did was I took this over to the window and measured the various windows that I have. So I have marks here where we'll do the 90. See that? And so I marked it. So I figured out what length pipe I need for the 1.5 inch spacing. And now I can drill the rest of the PVC pipe. In watching many other build videos, there's a lot of useful information out there. So if you take the time, watch as many build videos as you can, you get a lot of great ideas and easier ways to do things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take 2 of my lengths of PVC. I'm going to wipe them down. We are going to clamp them together so we can draw a straight line, so that way we can drill in a straight line. So what I've done, I've kind of angled the lettering so it's on the back side. I will probably remove the lettering if it's a problem, but if you do it at a slight angle to where it's offset, you get a nice seam right there. I will get a Sharpie and we will just draw a line between the two. Make sure they're not twisted. Now we have a nice straight line. And we'll make some marks at, of course, for the T's, I figured out that we can go 1 inch from the edge and then 1.5 inches after that. And I figured out the measurements to where everything will line up, be centered. Sometimes, if you're depending upon the size of your windows, you'll have to cheat a little bit and add 1/8 of an inch increments. Nobody will know. So now we'll do our measurements. I will just clamp that to the drill press. A little extra stability. Do this from the back side. So for 1/2 inch PVC, we are going to do 1 inch, and then we're going to do every 1.5 inches. So 1, 1.5, 4, 5.5, and so on until we get to the end. And 12.5, 13, 14.5, 16, and so on. And when we get to the end of the pipe, we should have 56.5, 58. We should have about 1 inch left on the edge, and we do. So next we are going to just drill some holes. Safety first. Okay, so I should have used the advice from the one build that I watched where somebody actually put some gloves on, because you got the little stuff flying and it beats up your hands. So put some gloves on. Let's get some gloves. Okay, so you can't start the video with gloves on. And we'll continue. And of course, before you start drilling, always check. I didn't set the depth correctly. So now we'll have to go back and do them all one more time with this set at a higher level. So don't forget to do that. Pixels should fit nice and snug. Perfect. So we are outside with the first window we're going to do, and I am going to put the vertical PVC that I drilled holes in up with the T on it, the cutoff T, and we're going to make a measurement to where we can get. So what we want to do is we're going to put little clips around the window frame. So we got some clips. I'll post a link to that, and that's what's going to hold the PVC around the window. So we want to measure, and we want to give a little bit of space from the edge so we can screw in our clip. Okay, now that we have our clips in place, that'll hold our vertical, and we can figure out what we need for the horizontal pieces. We'll take our vertical piece, one thing to mention, the clip should be mounted when you do your final installation, should be mounted in between the pixels, so you can actually get the pixel to sit behind there. And the wire, if you're using 3 or 4 inch pixels wire spacing, will be able to move just slightly off to the side so you can get the clip in there. So let's finish measuring. And what I'll do now is line up our corner piece, and as you can see, we've got a good hole. We'll have 1.5 inch spacing, and we can continue with our pipe. So I will make a mark where the T goes, and it'll be 1 inch off of this hole going up, so the T can fit right in there. So we're back on the bench. We are going to measure and cut another 10-foot length of PVC pipe for the window. First, I'm going to measure my mark. And I want to make sure that I am 1 inch from the center of the hole. 47.5. And it turns out my mark is right on the money. So 47.5, so we need to cut 2 more horizontal pieces at 47.5. Clamp it. A little extra added stability. We'll mark 47.5. So I have some PVC cutters. These will be used to cut the PVC. You can get these at any of your home improvement stores. So we'll just cut at that 47.5 mark. And measure the next length. Okay, so I ended up with 1.5 inches on the end instead of 1 inch. So our spacing is going to be slightly off. So when I drill it, I will cheat about 1/8 of an inch. starting probably somewhere around here. You can do the math, 1/8 of an inch. And that will kind of space this out a little more. No one's going to see 1/8 of an inch. Let's drill some holes. Safety first. As you can see, this makes a terrible mess. Good thing we have a shop vac. Next, we will actually figure out, we'll assemble it slightly and figure out how many pixels we need for the frame. And then we'll figure out, I'm going to do power injection every 50 pixels. It'll be easier because the pixels come with tails, and I'll show you that in a second. So these are the pixels that I have that I'm using for this project. They come in groups of 50, the little connector, and they also come with 2 extra wires for power injection. So I will be actually running a wire up through the tubes, and I'll figure out where we land. I'll probably start all the frames at bottom left. So we will build the frames bottom left, and then I will count up to 50 pixels so I can create another hole, because I will run the power injection through the pipe and poke it out. So as you can see, I've cleaned up a little bit, swept up. So I have put together the frame, and I have pulled my 16-2 copper wire through the full length, put these little tails in for power injection, and now we can add the pixels. I think it would be a good idea to point out that pixels, in case this is the very first video you happen to be watching, have a specific direction. So data in on one end and data out on the other. So, and that's noted on most pixels has a DI, V plus, and ground. So 12 volts, I'm using 12 volt pixels, 12 volts on the left, data center, and ground on the right. So you want to make sure that you start with the data in pixel on your first pixel of your frame. Well, we're going to make a slight design change. I'm going to go ahead and create the whole double window. So I've got a window below and a window above, a smaller one. So I'm going to create the frame to include the top window, so that way it's all one piece and it just snaps on and you're good to go. So once I get this finished, I'll show you how to wire up the whole thing. Now that we have our window frame redesigned to include the top window, we are going to start, of course, bottom left-hand corner. Pixels go up and around, and we'll end here. So we need to get data from this last pixel all the way up to the first pixel of the next upper window, and then pixels all the way around. We'll do some power injection right there in the corner. And come back around, and this will be our last pixel here. So now that we've got that complete, let's this will be the last window in the frame in the series of windows. So I'm going to count some pixels and kind of design things up for how much power I'm going to need, and I'll explain that in a bit. Okay, we've got our wire run. So we are running an 18.3. Got this off of Amazon. Up to, so it'll carry power and data all the way up to this point where I'll make all my connections, so we can run from the last pixel of that to the first pixel here. And I've got power running up, calculate 50 pixels to there. And I've also got power running for the lower, 50 pixels there, and another 50 pixels coming out there. So a quick note for everyone, the wire, as you can see, is a little thick on this 18.3. So what I'm doing is I'm using a little jeweler screwdriver to kind of flatten that. And then of course, give it a little poke when you're feeding the pixel in. So I've got the first 50 pixels in. And I was going to start at the top here and do the next 50. Just easier. But I forgot that I had all these lines. So I'm going to use a little bit of, I had some leftover drywall sandpaper, so I'm just going to rough it out. It'll come right off. We started on the next set of 50. And of course it is playoff football season. So we're going to have to wrap this up for the weekend. And we'll see you next weekend.